Hey Narwhals, I'm your host Luke Narwhal, and welcome back to another weight loss video. Hope you enjoy. Food is one of the worst addictions to exist. If you crave alcohol, the desire can eventually go away, and life can be lived without it. The same thing with any other drug. You can quit drugs, you can't quit food. If a food craving is ignored or suppressed, eventually hunger is going to appear anyway, and you have to eat something. Imagine if you had to smoke just a little bit of a drug every day so you don't die. But if you smoke a lot, bad stuff would happen all over. But the drug is supposedly really good, so you go and smoke your butt off. And then you think, oh crap, I don't want nothing to do with this anymore. I'm done. And next month, you're dead because you didn't smoke the little bit you were supposed to. Friggin' hell. If I could quit food, I would. Sorry for the rant, just had to get this out after devouring an entire pizza. I'm currently reading Hooked by Michael Moss, and it delves into some of the science around food addiction. While I don't have it nearly as bad as some of those passages really hit home for me. I recommend giving it a read, as I know for me, understanding why I'm having those thoughts helps me feel less alone and have a better understanding of my mind and body. A former binger and food addict here. I weighed 297 pounds at one point. I'm down to 180, but I'm telling you, I've been addicted to everything else too. It sucks. Nicotine, caffeine, grass, and alcohol. I started accidentally doing one meal a day when I got a supervisor position on a second shift, and it was so physically intensive I ended up getting nauseous if I ate while working. Meal replacement shakes, and teaching myself that the act of chewing needs to be to sustain my life at the end of the day, not a reward. Eat to live, don't live to eat, was the worst thing to hear before I figured it out. Now, it's like my mantra. My advice, and what's worked for me to kick the habit, is to hide food in the beginning. Donate stuff to friends if you have a lot of something you know that you shouldn't eat. And please remember to give yourself some grace. Nobody's perfect. Progress, not perfection. I've posted and told people before how insidious it is. The analogy I use is, imagine if an alcoholic had to keep bottles of booze in their kitchen for the rest of their life, and only have one drink at a time, 3 times a day. Also, there's a scientifically proven link between willpower and glucose levels. So if you have a low caloric intake, you reduce your ability to resist temptation. Making mistakes and slipping back into old habits is part of being human. We should be aware of the challenges facing us, but we can't use them as an excuse to give up. We are what we do. So even if we never win, at least we struggled instead of giving up. If you ever feel close to despair, look for help, even if the only help you know is posting on the subreddit. Other addicts put their tiger in a cage. The food addicts have to release that tiger multiple times a day and at the majority of social events, and get it back in the cage at the end of each day. We're also expected to do so without being savaged and without hurting the tiger. What's been working for me so far is I quit all the garbage food, soft drinks, candy, fast food, etc., cold turkey. It sucked for a couple of weeks, but eventually the cravings decreased in severity and I got used to the wholesome foods that I eat now. Over time, it does get easier. It just takes a lot of willpower in the beginning. The problem lies with the hyper-palatable foods. They're the root cause of the addiction. For a while, I was on the keto diet and fasting diet, and doing those two together is a lot like quitting food, honestly. If a food craving is ignored or suppressed, eventually hunger is going to appear anyway. This is true, but the ghrelin hormones in your body that regulate hunger will go down and up regardless of whether you ate. I found that getting rid of your food cues, like keeping chips, etc., in cupboards, and making a conscious effort to fast every day helped me basically feel like my addiction was gone after a few weeks. I didn't have cravings anymore, and eating was more like a chore. I think fasting helps because it lets you not care if you are hungry. You eat when you want to, not when your body tells you to. I find it hard because I obviously enjoy the taste and flavor and texture of junk food. I mean, companies spend money on making it this perfect trifecta of things. But healthy food can obviously taste good too. A nicely cooked steak, perfect roast potatoes, nice veggies, etc. But nice tasting food is also a trigger as well. Like, smelling McDonald's is obviously a trigger. Is smelling a cake that's baking makes me think of cake. My partner smelling cigarette smoke is a trigger for him that he has to fight. But like you say, he doesn't have to also smoke just a little to survive each day. Whereas I have these triggers of nice foods, and so I try and eat nice healthy food. But eating the nice healthy food also triggers me wanting junk on its own, because things taste nice, things smell nice, and it brings memories of other foods that smell and taste nice, such as junk food. Food addiction is really difficult. I don't care what anyone says. I had a legitimate sugar addiction. It would control my thoughts, therefore my actions as well. I'd get anxiety and panic for not having any for long periods of time. It was habitual. It was a crutch. I was convinced I couldn't be happy if I stopped having it so much. We can't quit food, no, but we can change things. The addiction can be dealt with, and sometimes even broken. The struggle is staying away from our problem foods long enough to no longer crave them. The withdrawal period, and the mental barriers as well, if there's anything you need to work through. Just know that it's possible, and don't give up. I won't pretend to know what's best for you or what will or won't work, as we both likely are very different. But as someone who's successfully broken that sugar addiction, I can tell you it's possible, even if what you experience is a bit different. I know that you were venting, and I was going to agree with you until I read your post. The difference with smoking, alcohol, and gambling is that it is all bad for you no matter. Food isn't your enemy, and treating it like that risks creating a very unhealthy relationship. Food is healthy and good in moderation. In your example, don't feel angry or guilty about eating a pizza. It has happened. Either plan to exercise a bit more in the next few days, or just forget about it as your treat for the week. In the future, you can eat high-calorie foods as long as you're not depriving yourself of other foods. I have a big meal every Saturday evening with my family. At first, I tried to avoid it and it made me miserable, so instead, I plan ahead for it. I am strict with what I eat during the week. I do extra long exercises on Saturday and Sunday, example 6 to 10 mile runs and walks to make up for the extra calories I'm about to eat. While I have a big meal, I make sure I do not go overboard, as it can easily turn into a 2,000 calorie evening including dessert and snacks. For example, for pizza and chips, I would have a smaller portion of chips and less cheese and more veg on my pizza. It's difficult, but if you plan ahead, it can be done. Original poster, I feel you. The struggle is so real and so hard, and while getting out on the other side is so rewarding, it can feel like an absolute impossibility that you will eventually make it. I've been on so many diets. I started at the age of 11, and they always failed because sooner or later I would fall off the wagon. I'll stop there so I don't inadvertently trigger someone. What worked for me was identifying my trigger foods. The foods that I craved, that I had no control around. What was the common factor they all had? I realized for me, it was carbs. Desserts, soda, chips, fries, instant ramen, etc. I loved pizza. I could binge on pizza. As a 5'2" woman, I've eaten an entire large pizza and a small loaf of garlic bread, no problem. But I couldn't binge on a bowl of pizza toppings, even with cheese and sauce. Delicious and not necessarily healthy, but I could stop after a point. I didn't feel compelled to eat too much, and I stayed full for longer when I didn't eat bread. I realized later that this was basically a combo of addiction and my IR and blood sugar levels. Eating carbs made my sugar spike and crash, and that severely impacted my appetite as well. So I cut them out. I can't do moderation, it doesn't work for me. Going cold turkey sucked for 2 weeks, but after that, my relationship with food improved. I still eat snacks and junk occasionally, but it's snacks and junk I make for myself with non-trigger foods, and I can stop at a reasonable time. As an alcoholic in recovery, can confirm. But that's why I'm back on the low carb, clean keto train. Personally, I found that I'm not actually addicted to food. I'm addicted to carbs. And I think a lot of people here are the same way, whether they realize that or not. I'm not planning to do keto religiously forever, but I'll probably have to do it on and off forever to keep my addiction and weight controlled. Calorie counting alone just isn't enough for me because I'm constantly obsessing over my next carby snack or meal like I did with alcohol. Good luck to you, my friend. A former smoker here, the desire absolutely never goes away. If anything, I would probably give up food to be able to smoke, and it was much harder to quit smoking than to quit binging. Not doubting that food is addictive, just putting it into perspective. The reason why it's easier to keep off the habit is because it is so much harder and socially unacceptable to smoke. I can't just go out and smoke in a cafe. I can't smoke in my house. Cigarettes are crazy expensive, and I would be a social pariah if I did smoke and constantly pestered to stop. The barriers to binging is just not there. It's dirt cheap, easily accessible, and socially encouraged. I think this is a very interesting juxtaposition because I feel like way less people would have problems with eating addiction if a similar public health and social approach was taken. Yes, you always have to eat food, but healthy food does not trigger addiction nearly as much as processed food does. Not saying everything would be fixed, but yeah. You need to change your framing. You are addicted to crap food, sugar, processed, etc., not real food. Knock out all the processed food and sugar, and you will literally experience hunger differently. I'm mid-30s, and I try to explain to people that I don't experience hunger like cravings or pain anymore, as long as I'm getting enough micronutrients. I do fasting, and the way I experience hunger now is more like crap, haven't eaten in a long time. My temper is getting a bit shorter and having some increased anxiety, better eat something soon. I honestly have no idea how long I'd have to go before eating to get those hunger pangs like I used to, which makes it much more convenient to make healthy choices. And that brings us to the end of the video, Narwhals. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please tap subscribe to join our awesome community, the Narwhals, and for more weight loss stories that help you stay on track. And here's our featured Narwhal of the day. I did it. Who said you can't reach your goals?